Sanbonan Dumlang, hello, it's Simply Spitzer here and welcome back to my YouTube channel, but also a special welcome to those listening to the podcast Simply Do the Work. And I also want to send out an apology to the podcast listeners because I know it's been almost 3 weeks since the previous episode. And in my last YouTube video, I actually said a podcast episode will be coming in a couple of days, but I ended up scrapping that episode only because I just wasn't feeling up for it. I didn't want to come up with this in genuine. I didn't want to put on a show for you guys, but you know, my personal drama aside, I think I've been doing pretty well. I've been doing pretty good, basically I'm doing the best I can in the times that we're living in, that's pretty much all we can do. And so before I get into today's episode video matter of discussion, I do want to ask that if you're not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do hit that subscribe button and notification bell on my channel. Like if you're new, let me just give y'all a quick little summary. I'll be doing pop culture videos, besides the social commentary videos like this one, and I'm also hoping to get back into vlogging and stuff. Just that there hasn't really been much happening in my life. That's kind of the reason why I stopped the vlogs. But also do subscribe to the podcast if you're new, and if you're watching on YouTube and you're not aware of my podcast, the link will be down below, and it's pretty much content much like this video, except there are like podcast exclusive episodes. I mean, there are episodes on the podcast which aren't available on video format, and that's normally where I do like a deep dive. Sorry, my voice, I'm not used to talking like this. Basically on the podcast I do a deep dive into social issues like this one, and I'm a lot more personal and vulnerable on the podcast. I just feel a lot more comfortable showing that side of me on the podcast where it's just audio only than YouTube, where you can see my face, and just like YouTube comments can be all types of messy, and I want my YouTube channel to be a safe, fun space. And that is why, if you actually noticed, the last 2 or 3 weeks, what I'd do is I'd have a fun pop culture lighthearted video come out with a podcast episode, which would be like a more heavier, more serious topic. And that's pretty much how I kind of want to do it going forward, where even if it's not always a 2-for-1 like this one, but have a video and a podcast which sometimes may be related, other times can be two completely unrelated topics. But that is neither here nor there. Let us just dive right into this video now that we've got the formalities, the catching up. I feel like because it's been a while, I couldn't just be like, hi, subscribe and dive in. I feel like I had to just preface this. And also, I do want to send a shout out to all the new subscribers. Like, it really warmed my heart to see that actually the subscriber count has been going up even though I haven't been posting. Because in the past, if I went more than 2 weeks without posting, people just start unsubscribing. I don't know why, but thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. So you can probably tell by the title that today we'll be discussing the Clicks ad controversy. Now, I don't know, maybe for y'all, you might be over it, might seem like I'm a little late, but I actually wanted to take my time to really just analyze the situation. I didn't want to just dive in and speak my opinion, because even on social media, I've been relatively quiet, and also it has to do with the fact that I had my own things going on, so I really had to protect my peace. Like, I was not going to get fully involved, fully invested into the whole controversy and mess, because it's a lot of emotional labor and I just do not have the bandwidth for it. So by now, if you're South African, you probably are aware of the racist ads that Clicks put up. I'll put them up on screen, but if you're listening to the podcast, basically Clicks put on their website, there was an ad that put comparing a black woman's hair and a white woman's hair, and the black woman's hair was called dry and damaged, and while the white woman's hair was written straight. And the real triggering word for me was the word normal. Why is whiteness normal? Why is whiteness the standard? And this isn't just when it comes to hair, but with just everything, like with the work that we're trying to do, like trying to dismantle the system of white supremacy, because white supremacy places whiteness as the norm, and everything else, everyone else, to hell with us, basically. That's what they're saying. And even within that spectrum of what is considered normal, I'm using air quotes. I know that even within the white community, it's a certain kind of white person, right? There are white people who do not fit into these standards and rules, or whatever you want to call it, that the systems of white supremacy has put in place. And so I just want to say, I'm not even going to have the debate of is it racist or not. Like, I'm not going to be trying to justify it. When I first saw the ad and there was the initial, I completely understood the outrage, right? And it's kind of wild to me that there are some people who need it explained to them, that there are people who they cannot see the issue. And I've expressed this before. It's kind of like, it just seems like common sense, why things like these are triggering. Why, as Black people, we're tired, we're done tolerating this. And so there was, of course, social media outrage. There were protests and just varied responses, with some people opening and, I actually learned a lot from this controversy, the scandal, if you must. But there are also some people who are just speaking at all types of mess. It's always the raggedy, dusty people on Twitter. The streets of Twitter, it's like, I always go into Twitter expecting mess, right? Like, there's nothing I ever see on Twitter that surprises me, because I've come to know that don't expect sense. Whereas I'm more so surprised when I actually see decent commentary on Twitter, because most of the time people be saying all types of mess. I think the main issue with some of the things people are saying on Twitter is that there was no point, right? I feel like people will be trying to throw all these gotcha statements, trying to play devil's advocate, but it's like, what is the point? And lo and behold, most of it was cishet Black men. It's like the weakest link in the community. I think as Black people, we've all come to somewhat of an agreement that the cishet Black men are the weakest links in the community, because they are constantly lowering the bar for us. Why, when we are dealing with the issue of, this racist ad that clicks, and I mean, it was Tresemme, but Tresemme is so irrelevant in this conversation, but anyways, why, when we're having this discussion, right, about this and the issue of how, I am so sorry, but someone is starting some motor or engine, and I have to apologize, I have no control over that sound. But anyway, we're having this conversation about the Clicks racist ad, and then Black men be coming out, but aren't y'all women wearing wigs? Aren't you guys wearing weaves? So maybe Clicks didn't lie in their ad, because it seems like there seems to be a preference for that kind of hair anyways. And it's just like, to those who listen to the podcast, I have my hands on my head, because I have, it's just, where do you even begin to just talk to someone who's thinking like that? Because how I see it is that a lot of times within the Black community, people are quick to point out, oh, but you have self-hate, or you don't love yourself, or you don't love your hair, why don't you do it? It's like, where's that energy directed at other races? Obviously, I do not know what, white people be saying to each other, because, obviously I am not white, but I don't see the same criticisms when white people engage in other cultures, or when white people take on certain aesthetics. Instead, they are praised by everyone, including Black people, right? The topic of blackfishing and cultural appropriation. I mean, you do have people within the Black community who not only enable that to continue, but they also support it. They praise it. And so, for the purposes of this video and this podcast, I don't really want to go into too much of the politics of the Clicks ad, because I feel like there are many people who've done a great job. I mean, even the whole conversation of, is it outrage marketing or not? Okay, let me just quickly speak on that. I don't personally think this was a case of outrage marketing, right? Outrage marketing, if you don't know, it's basically when brands and companies purposely put something controversial, something that they know is going to get people upset, to get more exposure. A perfect example of this that I can think of is when H&M had that photo shoot for their clothing line or something, I presume, and they had the black child wearing, I can't remember, was it a t-shirt with a monkey on it, or but basically, right, the subliminal message, like the message of that ad was giving, was basically comparing this black child to a monkey, which of course had people upset. There was a ton of conversation on social media about it, and so I see that as an example of black outrage, because you find there are people who probably didn't even know that H&M was coming up with a new kids clothing line, but now they found out because of people's reactions to it. I see it even with influencers and celebrities, because they themselves are a brand, like a music artist will sometimes say something controversial just to plug their album, because now it's like everyone's talking about you. Like Lana Del Rey, when she did that whole messy question for the culture thing, I believe that was the because she went on that whole messy Instagram post, and just at the end she plugged her album coming out soon. It's like, I'll talk about this more in my upcoming album. Like, outrage marketing 101. What I think happened with this situation, and someone actually did, this isn't something that I came up with, something I saw on Twitter, I just forgot who tweeted it, but a marketing executive or someone who works in advertising basically made a thread talk about how even in South Africa, the people who are at the top of these marketing agencies or these departments or these companies, they don't look like us, okay? It's mostly white people. And so what happens is, even if you're on the team and you mention that, hey, listen, this ad you guys want to run is problematic, or this ain't it, they'll often brush you off. They'll say you're being oversensitive, you're being overdramatic, or they say it's not that, the typical gaslighting 101 that marginalized communities and individuals have to endure, basically that. And so when it's out and then everyone's mad, and then it's the whole trying to do damage control, being like, oh, we apologize. And like I said, I don't actually want to go too much into the whole clicks thing, because the conversation I want to have is a lot bigger than that, okay? Like, yes, we can discuss clicks. We can, like, the clicks that we can go back and forth on it all day, but I do feel like there are a lot of bigger issues that we can discuss, tackle, explore. I just took a low break, just to find myself, center myself, also drink some water, because I could feel that my voice was like doing the most. But I want to talk about the issue of black hair, natural hair, the natural hair movement, and just some of the issues that I've noticed within it, and also from like my personal experiences. So let me just tell you guys a little bit about my journey with my hair. So when I was younger, I always loved hair. I was fascinated with hair. I remember in primary school, I'd be that kid who'd ask to play with the teacher's hair. I'd be playing with the teacher's hair. My parents being the rather, surprisingly progressive, considering how they were brought up, but the progressive parents that they were, when I know it's going to be controversial for some people, got me a doll. So I could, because I think they saw from an early age that, this child loves hair. And so I would play with the doll, style its hair. And I actually wish I had the doll here to show you guys, because the doll, although like the doll's skin color is Caucasian, it has like maybe like type 4, it has type 4 hair. Literally, that doll has type 4 hair. And I also remember, like, I used to style my mom's hair even while I was still in primary school, and even like right now my sister currently has braids. I did her braids. So hair is just something I've always loved and been passionate about. But then for me personally, right, I remember when I was younger, my parents used to make me cut my hair a lot. And one of the reasons why, which I won't necessarily fault them for this, because once my hair grew to a certain length, I would struggle to take care of it. When it came to combing, I wouldn't comb it properly. And so then, when you're a kid and then the adult's like, okay, come, since you can't comb it up, let me comb you. And it would be like one of the most painful experiences of your life. And so be like, okay, you know what? Tomorrow you're getting a haircut. And you'll be like, okay, yes, please just cut the hair, because clearly this trying to comb it thing ain't working. Until I got to about high school, right? In high school, obviously, when you, like, I feel with most people, right? When you're younger, you do whatever your parents want to do with your hair, but you get to that age where I think even your parents recognize that, okay, now it's up to them, right? When I realized that, wait, I'm the one who's always asking for hair. I'm like, wait, but I started like, why am I cutting my hair? I think it started off with first of because I used to always get like chiskop, which basically translates to just like bald, right? But that's how I know when I like, just give me a brush and not totally removing my hair. And then I just decide, no, I'm not gonna cut my hair anymore. I want to let it grow out. I want to comb it, style it, and I do remember that certain people used to have certain comments because it wasn't really kept well, wasn't really taken care of well. But that's because I didn't know better. In my defense, I didn't know better. No one was teaching me. Like, looking back at the products I was using, child, like the things I used to do. Like, I remember I actually used to steal products from my mom because I'd feel that my hair is really dry. I'm like, you know what? Just washing it and living life and combing is not the way. So I used to steal my mom's products, but they wouldn't always necessarily work the best because, you know, they weren't made for what I was trying to use them for, basically. But then 2016 rolled in, and then I remember getting dreadlocks. And my experience with dreadlocks is, I look back at that time with like bittersweetness. Yes, that's the word. It's like a bittersweet time, because while I really loved how, you know, just the aesthetic of how the dreadlocks look, I love the experience of getting them in, and just, there's a lot I can talk about, right? But I do remember the comments that people would make. People had certain assumptions about me simply because of the fact that I had dreadlocks, and not me getting emotional now. Moving on, I took out the dreadlocks because, to be honest, it was just getting too much. And also, the thing is, I did sort of feel like that I didn't have full support from certain family members. It's kind of, you know, when you're at that age, right, trying to explore yourself, explore your identity, figure out things that you like, you kind of, it's one thing, right, to have these racist white people making these comments, or even just, you know, maybe not necessarily racist, but ignorant people making ignorant comments, right, thinking that they're funny. But it's another, when you get home, you have this whole other side, right? Because, okay, right, I took out the dreadlocks, but then I was like, I'm not, like, even when I took out I don't cut my hair. I spent, I think, like a week, because I remember I took them out, like I went to a camp, and then school was starting like the following week. So I think I had a couple of days, and I remember just Googling, how do you undo dreadlocks without cutting your hair? Because I was like, I ain't cutting my hair. Like, it grew for so long, I'm not doing that. So I remember undoing the dreadlocks and finding that they'd actually locked. But, you know, in hindsight, looking back, I could have just snipped off the tips, because it was just the tips that locked. But I was like, nope, I am going to, and I worked to untangle them. And I remember going to school, people like, wait, your locks are gone? What? I should actually make a whole video about that time in my life. Like, my whole natural hair could actually be its own video. So let me speed it up and get to the point. And so from there, I was just basically experimenting with different hairstyles. I remember doing twist outs in high school and just different styles, because now that my hair was longer, I actually noticed that, oh, I actually have a bit more versatility. And I remember just watching YouTube videos, learning through that, and then dyeing my hair in university. That was quite an experience as well, because I remember I actually went to a salon. I remember dyeing my hair for the first time, and I went to a salon because I didn't trust myself. And just remember coming out of that experience and my hair being so dry, and just, even when I did my hair for matric farewell, I had cornrows, and they used a hair dryer, but they didn't really put on like heat protectants, as, you know, when you researched how they say you should, you know, protect your hair when when you're using hair like heat, basically. Why can't I speak? And so I've just been, you know, I've been through a lot. Like, even like cutting my hair, one of the reasons why I actually cut my hair is because I had like a fade situation, right? And so every time I cut my hair, I just cut the sides. But I was like, you know what, I'm tired of this. I want to have a full head of hair. That's why I cut my hair, and I was like, okay, we're starting over. And so, just to summarize all of that, and like the point, comparing, okay, that is all cute and you know, good to know, but how does this tie into the clicks ad and all of that? Basically, throughout this time, I had to deal with messages of that my hair isn't the good kind of hair. Because also, when you go on YouTube and you're looking for tips and you put in a search, because first of all, when I started, I didn't know about hair types, right? I didn't know that there's 4C, like I didn't understand that whole system. And so I don't even know why I used to Google, but I think at some point I learned, okay, I have to add natural to the search results, otherwise you'd see people with perms and people put in relaxer in their hair and all these other chemical processes which do change your hair. But I Google natural hair, and some people I'd see it, nah, you're selling me dreams, and so then I learned about the hair typing system, and I was like, okay, so my hair is 4C. At least most of my hair is 4C. Like, you guys can't see, but here at the back, I think the hair here is like 4A, 4B, but that's irrelevant. And so I started putting search results, okay, 4C natural hair. And at first, some of these videos, you start questioning what's wrong with my hair, because this person claims you have the same type of hair, but it ain't working. Or there are just some tutorials you'll watch and you'll know, even without, you don't even need to try the method, that now my hair can't do that. What you are literally selling me dreams here. And I used to always have these ideas that black hair, natural hair, is unmanageable, that it is just difficult. And I think these have been passed on to us through white supremacy and racist rhetoric. I mean, even the idea that black people can't grow hair, because that's another thing I noticed, right? And this is me moving away from the white gaze, right? I've moved on from the white gaze. This is just within the black community, how it's kind of like natural hair isn't prized and valued unless it's long. Like through cutting my hair, I've actually found I'm falling in love with my hair all over again, because I'm experiencing it in a whole different way because it's shorter, right? And so there's just been this theme of pain and pleasure that comes with hair, because I do think, for example, it can be said that, right, 4C hair is, it loses moisture, right? Because it loses moisture, you have to be a lot more conscious of the products that you use and really taking care of it so that it is not dry. And so even within black communities, right, because a lot of black men were saying that, but why y'all mad the clicks ad on They Tell the Truth, isn't that how dry hair looks? Like, people equate, like, when they look at 4C hair, in their minds what click says, oh, that's dry, that's damaged, I'm sorry, that is ghetto. People have all of these ideas, which I think that we need to sit down and unpack, and this is no shade to you. If you have 3C type hair, you've got the spirally curls, or the more loose, more defined curls. The thing is, like, especially when my hair is longer, right, and it's stretched out, you're not going to really be seeing any curls, right? Like, even when I do a twist out, like, sometimes it comes out cute. There are, like, some defined curls. Other times it's a situation. Like, I think that's also the thing. I had to learn how to love and appreciate my hair for what it is. Because another thing that helped me, I had to move away from the mainstream media on how to take it. I just did trial and error for myself, basically. Like, yes, I did have certain YouTubers or people that I'd watch who, would give me inspo, but I eventually just started playing out with my hair by myself, hence, like, even with my whole process of dyeing my hair, that was, I'm sorry, I bumped the mic. I'm so sorry. I don't know how that's going to sound for you guys. But, I had to learn that, you can't just put, dye on dye, because it's going to come out looking some type of, like, the colors might not come out the way you want, or, how dye can really dry out, because I remember also last year when I got into protective styles, I remember I did cornrows, and then I had twists, and then the 4 locks right before I cut my hair. It's because my hair was damaged from my 2 years of just going ham on the dye. Even though I knew the precautions you have to take when dyeing your hair, I grabbed just enough rope to hang myself with. And so that is just bringing it back to, the point I'm trying to make is that, yes, there is the whole struggle of natural hair, like the natural hair struggles. And I recognize how my story and my perspective is different from, other black people, men, women, non-binary, queer folk. It's so different, because I also recognize that how, for me, right, as a person who exists in society as a male, right, as a male presenting person, I recognized how some people were uncomfortable with me growing out my hair. Like, literally, I don't understand why some people seemed offended that I was choosing to grow my hair, that I was changing up my hair color and not, sticking to just the traditional, just getting a brush, getting a fade, calling it a day, right? I, for myself, it's kind of things I also understand, like, why were y'all so pressed about my hair? Like, it's my hair. Why were y'all so pressed? But even when I think back to, like, in high school and primary school, some of the rules about hair were very racist. I'ma just call them what it is. They were racist because they were specifically targeting black students, black hair. Like, I remember how a lot of the hairstyles that I had in my last 2 years of high school were technically against the school rules. But in a way, I do also recognize how wearing my hair a certain way is a protest, right? Like, okay, if I have hair like this, there's no protest in it, nothing revolutionary. And I do think that the longer I did start wearing my hair out, the way I wanted, the less and less it felt like a protest, because I started noticing that, oh wait, there are other people who are also doing that. Like, I also remember how some of my male classmates would come up to me and be like, black male classmates, like, how did you get your hair to do that? I think some were actually, surprised that, oh wait, our hair can actually look like that. Like, I remember after a while I actually knew, and I think my definition changed of what is healthy hair. How does dry, damaged hair look like? To point a note, okay, so this is how my beautiful 4C hair looks. I think I was blessed. I didn't really have that whole all the baggage that some people have when it comes to the texture of their hair. And I think especially with women, like, I know with, like, if you were or women or assigned female at birth, that can be its own mess because of how, when I see little girls being subjected to braiding and just, I'm not saying it's wrong to braid your little kids' hair, but I just mean sometimes kids will literally be crying because maybe they want to first blow dry their hair, or they first want to relax the child's hair, or when they braid, they are putting really tight. Like, I remember my sister, when she was younger, she made it very clear at some point that she does not like getting her hair done. And I do appreciate how my mom didn't force that onto her, because she was like, I want my child to be a child. She'll have the rest of her life to go through braiding and doing whatever with her hair. And even I remember earlier this year, my sister went through her own little big chop, because my mom used to relax my sister's hair in the name of making it easier to manage. And so I remember my mom, texted me and was like, hey, can you please recommend products for your sister's hair? How can we help take care of her? And I recognize how there's some people who don't necessarily have those in-person role models, right? Because, like, I didn't, everything I know about hair, I figured out by myself. But I love that I can pass down that knowledge to my sister, and, I can pass that on down to, the kids that are born after me. And so there's just a lot of work and unlearning that as a black community we need to do about our ideals, even like the beauty standards, right? And even like these raggedy men, these dusty men who are like, I want my girls all natural, I don't want her wearing a weave. It's kind of like, when will we allow black people to exist in their individuality? Like, I've spoken about this many times, how black people, we do not have individuality, because you almost feel like you're carrying the burden of your entire race. I think that's why, particularly with cis-het men, because I feel like the ladies, girls, they would praise my hair. They'd be like, oh my gosh, your hair. So they we discuss tips. We're like, okay, what are you doing? But I feel like some men saw me growing out my hair, right, which disrupts the rigid gender norms, right? Me growing out my hair, me having hairstyles which, some people attribute to femininity, or feminine, like hairstyles that some people would classify as feminine. Me having that, they felt like it was putting, I'm trying to explain, I think y'all know what I'm trying to say, right? How they saw that I'm letting down black men. And I think that's part of tying it why does it always come back to white supremacy? I'm not saying, I feel like also another thing some people feel like I've had a friend like criticize me on this, like they feel like I'm blaming every issue, every societal issue on white supremacy. I'm saying no, but these things intersect. We can't deny that these things intersect. These things feed into each other and allow, like, the one oppressive system allows the other to continue, right? And part of white supremacy, what they did was they emasculated black men, right? In order to elevate white men, black men were basically put down. And it's the same thing with white women, right? White femininity was upholded while black women were basically masculinized, if that's even a word. And so, what was the point I'm even trying to make? Like, basically, I think moving on, because I feel like I just went on a tangent or something. I do also just seeing how some people responded to this whole clique saga, and just how people have just been speaking to me in general. It's kind of like people don't allow us to just have things. I feel like as black people, we aren't allowed to have things, right? You listen to a certain type of music and you see it as a disgrace to the black community, because like, why aren't you listening to more South African artists? Why are you always, or why is your favorite artist white? And the same thing with women who wear wigs and weaves. Like, why can't you just can't I think we need to allow space, right, for someone to be pro-black, right? Someone can be fully in love with their blackness, right? A woman can be fully proud of her identity as a black woman. She can fully love and embrace her natural hair, but then choose to wear a wig or weave for a couple weeks, for a couple months, you know, because she wants to switch up the look. She likes how it looks. I think we need to allow space for that to happen. Like, not everything is rooted in self-hate. I think some of the people who are pushing on this narrative of self-hate are just projecting the hatred that they have for themselves. Like, I love me. I love my hair, you know, in all its shapes and whatever shape, size, length, you know, whenever I switch it up, you know. And then it's also the conversation how sometimes people will come up to you and they think it's a compliment. They'll say, oh, I like it when your hair is like this. And it's kind of like, well, that's very sweet and all, and I know you mean well, but I don't do this for you. And secondly, just because of the politics of hair, I feel like it's also what sometimes, you know, people get lost on. It's like, sometimes I'm not necessarily offended, but sometimes like the politics of just what I've had to deal with in terms of my hair, it kind of, you know, Alexa, play Solange, Don't Touch My Hair. Like, can we just, I really get really heated on the topic of hair, because I know some people want to be like, but why, if it's that, why are y'all so pressed? It's just hair. But it's like, if it's just hair, then we wouldn't be having this conversation, right? The same when people say, why do we get upset when like white people are wearing black hairstyles, right? Because they're like, oh no, it's just hair. But it's like, okay, if it's just hair, then you wouldn't mind not doing it, right? If it's just a hairstyle and we're like, we don't like when you do it, then it shouldn't be a problem to give it up. But I digress because I could literally go on and on and on. Let me just quickly check my notes. Oh yes. The final point I wrote here, because I've actually covered everything I wanted to discuss, though it was all over the place as usual. You know how it is. This Clique's ad and the response that came after it really it also made me think about the state of the Black Lives Matter movement in South Africa. You know, thinking about how some people were speaking against the protesters, saying that the protests are an inconvenience. People were just making all types of points, which if you actually unpack it, they make no sense. Because even we think about when the Black Lives Matter protests and riots really peaked around George Floyd's murder, right? People all over the world, even here in South Africa, were, you know, really vocal about their support for the protests, saying, oh, I wish that, you know, there was more I could do. Like, I even remember, like, a friend and I, we had a conversation saying, like, you know, the way I'm feeling right now with what's happening in the world, like, if there was a protest happening, I would go. Which, you know, I think it's easy to talk the talk, but do you walk the walk? You know, it's that question of Black lives shouldn't only matter when they're trending, but they should matter every single day. And that's pretty much, you know, the work that I'm trying to do, you know, with my YouTube channel and my podcast, you know. Not only just, like, not only just, point out the mess that's in the world, but try to make sense of it and how to prevent more mess from happening. And that is why I urge you, please, guys, stop defending mess, okay? Educate yourself, because I feel like a lot of people, they're talking points, they weren't even making points. Just the things that people were saying, it just shows that you're just not educated. It's like I can't even have a conversation with you because you're not going to understand at least half of what I'm saying. And so I also recognize that a lot of the information, right? When we Google, if you Google resources like podcasts, books, and videos on Black issues and Black, I know that most of them, not all obviously, but a lot of them are from American scholars, or a lot of them are American figures. Americans, a lot of their content is the most easily accessible, and that's also part of the work that I do for myself, but also with my platforms, is I take what I read and listen to and hear from the Americans and even like other nationalities, right? And I try to contextualize and see, okay, how does that apply here in South Africa? Because at the end of the day, while yes, there is the global universal truth, I do make a conscious effort to remain loyal to the South African story, the South African context, because that's where I'm at. For example, I was actually thinking about this earlier today. Like I often hear Black Americans speak about the divide between Black people and other brown communities, such as the Hispanic or the Latin Americans, right? Because even though, right, Mexicans, for example, experience racism at the hands of white people, there are a lot of Mexicans who hold anti-Blackness, right? And even other non-white groups who aren't necessarily Black, they also do hold anti-Black ideals. And just how does one go about unpacking that? Because I see the same issue happen here in South Africa, especially thinking about South Africa. We are a multicultural, multi-diverse nation, right? The rainbow nation. And when I look at how there's this divide between the Blacks and the coloreds in South Africa, it's almost like the same issues, but just they have different names, right? Because I've also discussed, topic of Blackness, like I'm not Black because, of the color of my skin or the texture of my hair. There's also the history, the ancestry, the culture, because that's where the conversation of race and ethnicity comes out. I was even having a conversation about it with someone on Twitter, because, for example, there are people who look exactly like me, but they identify as colored, because, not me bumping the mic again, girl, because of their family history, right? Because of the culture they grew up around. For example, my sister, if you've seen my sister, she's on like previous videos of mine. My sister often talks about how she gets really annoyed at people constantly asking her if she's colored, or they were like, or are there white people in your family? Like all these weird questions people ask, and colorism has entered the chat. And so, just to wrap this up in conclusion, because once again, this was all over the place. Don't defend mess. Let's educate ourselves, and let's also, I think, just be a lot more conscious of how we interact, the products we consume, the brands we support. Because I feel like at the end of the day, we shouldn't exceptionalize. The Click scandal, what, the Tresemme or whatever that brand was, this isn't an issue unique to them. This is prevalent with many other brands and companies in South Africa. And I've actually noticed that there are brands which, in the wake of this scandal, have changed their image, have reached their image. And it's kind of like, for me, it's also kind of like, why now? Like in 2020, why are we still fighting these battles? Like 20 plus years into democracy in South Africa? Please, like, I've said this many times, the fact that we in South Africa, as Black people, we are the majority, but we still face all of this racism, all these microaggressions, is very concerning. Like, the racial dynamics of this country are very concerning. And I think it also proves that this is a system. We aren't fighting individuals. And I do feel like in the wake of the Click scandal, some people got so caught up, or so they hyper focus on individual brands, individual people, that we lose sight of the bigger issue, the bigger system that we need to dismantle. And I hope that, if you made it to the end of this video slash podcast, I was able to, help illuminate or broaden your thinking into the bigger issues at play. And, I tried to keep it lighthearted, because I know that for, any marginalized group, when you have to do the work of confronting or naming the struggles that you face, it can be tiresome, right? And that is also why it doesn't rest only on Black people to speak up against racism. We also need, I could go on and on and on. But that being said, thank you so much for watching and listening. And if you enjoyed this, please do give this video a thumbs up. Also leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on the Click Saga and just the natural hair community, texturism, the unfair beauty standards that, we impose as a Black community. Like, there's actually so much that I could have unpacked. And so, we'll dive into it another day, because the mess continues as per usual. But yeah, also check me out on social media at Simply Sfiso on Instagram and Twitter. And until I see you guys in the next one, or hear from you guys again, I love you. Bye.